and welcome once again to the video. In this one, as the Formula One season of 2024 has just finished, I thought I would not do a full rundown of the Grand Prix season. I'll probably do that over 2 videos like I did with the 2021 season recently. But I thought what I would do is what I did last year, and just a simple short video where I dare to score the drivers out of 10, basically. A bit cheeky, I know, because what do I know? So it is simply only from a fan's perspective. But yeah, I did it last year. It triggers responses, which is good. I'm always welcome for anyone who either agrees or disagrees with my scores. And I have to say, if I did the scores again, sort of, in a week's time, some may be different. I like to think they would all be the same, but I'd probably change my mind on 2 or 3 of them, probably. Okay, so let's go. I'm doing this in sort of like a pretty random order, but let's go first with Gasly and Ocon. Now, I do have to make sure that is nicely in focus. It's got to be nicely in focus. Okay, that's nicely in focus. Okay. So, Gasly, let's just dive straight in, because I don't want this to be too long a video. I'm going to give Gasly an 8. Is that shockingly high? I don't think so, because I think he's done really well with the car he's had, and as soon as the car came good in the last few races, he was there consistently all the time. Now Ocon, in contrast, is only getting a 6 because he hasn't, I don't think, performed anywhere near as well as Gasly has. Yes, he got that second place at the Brazilian Grand Prix, but he was behind Gasly. He was in front of Gasly, wasn't he? 1 place in front of Gasly. But that was a sort of standout race that he would have probably finished 5th and 6th, something like that, I suppose. Maybe lower than that even, if it wasn't for the weather conditions. It was a strong performance, and it showed that their car was producing some good performance, which showed itself in the races after Brazil, with Gasly anyway. But that one result alone doesn't do enough for me with Ocon, I'm afraid. But Gasly, yeah, there's not many that I've scored 8 or higher. Maybe 5 or 6, maybe 1. Let me just see, I've got them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there are 7 that are 8 or higher, and he's amongst them. Okay, so let's go. Next one. Oh, see, this always happens. My pen. I'm going straight in. Well, not straight in, because Gasly and Ocon were straight in. Going with Verstappen and Perez. Now, there is a marked difference between their scores. I will warn you in advance. Spoiler alert, they do not get the same score. Verstappen is getting a 9. Perez is getting a 2. Now, Perez is getting a 2 because he did well in the first 6 races. Again, still blown away by his teammate, but he collected the points, which is what the team wants. Amazingly, let's just have a look here. Let's just add these points up. So we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 78, 79, 87, 95, 103. So Perez scored 103 of his 152 points in the first 6 races of the year. He only scored 49 points in the remaining 18 races of the year. And 4 of the 6 sprint races were after those first 6 as well. But he did really well in the first 6. I've got it in front of me here. He was 18, 18, 10, 18, 21, 18. His points. Unbelievable. Fantastic stuff. Well, yeah, but the Red Bull was very good at the beginning of the season, so he was doing his job. Not fantastic stuff, but he was doing his job. But I haven't seen, I don't remember seeing such a marked drop in performance without the car changing that much. It did change a little bit, yes, I know, because Verstappen struggled as well. But Perez was struggling before Verstappen was struggling. I mean, Verstappen won the San Marino race, Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, the Canadian Grand Prix, the Spanish Grand Prix, after Perez came to a halt with his points. However, of course, you could argue that Norris should have won all of those races. So definitely, the Red Bull had dropped a little bit, but not as much as how Perez dropped. So he's getting 2 points for those first 6 races. I remember, it reminds me a little bit of Jacques Lafitte in 1979. I couldn't remember if it was 79 or 80. I had to look it up just now, and it is, I can confirm, 1979. Jacques Lafitte scored 36 points in the championship. 18 came in the first 2 races. He won the first 2 races, and then only had 1 more podium in the rest of the season. I forget the reason why. I think his car was classed as, there was something in his car that had to get taken off or something. I don't know. I think so. That does ring a bell, but not that I was following Formula 1 back then. Anyway, so let's go with Albon next. Basically Williams, 3 Williams drivers. Colapinto, and Sargeant. Okay, so Albon, I have scored, I'm just trying to make sure it's in focus, scored Albon a 7. Yet another strong, solid performance. Quite a few crashes for the Williams guys, especially Colapinto, but I've still given Colapinto a 7. Sargeant, I'm afraid, just gets a 2. Sargeant has been out of his depth ever since he jumped into Formula 1, basically, and he's been flapping about, struggling. Not everyone makes it. This is the pinnacle. Lots and lots of Formula 1 drivers, including champions, F2 champions, have struggled when they've gone into Formula 1. So it's nothing to be ashamed of for Sargeant, but yeah, he just couldn't hack it. Colapinto has. Had they not had so many accidents, I think Albon's had a few, hasn't he? But maybe they weren't his fault. Colapinto's made a few mistakes, but I still give them 7 each, because you could argue that Albon should have more of a higher score than Colapinto, but I'm factoring in the fact that Colapinto is a rookie. So that's what shares them 7 points. Okay, next up. Scruffy writing, I'm afraid, because my pen, I keep wanting to go over it all the time, keeps drying. Maybe I just cover it up slightly as I'm doing it. Right, now I've put Bearman in there because he did take part in 3 races, didn't he? 3 races. And 2 of them he scored points in, of course, one in the Ferrari and one in the Haas. So with Bearman, I've gone for a solid 8. 7 for Sainz. 8 for Leclerc. I think Sainz has just, I think Leclerc has just edged Sainz. Sainz had a very strong start to the season. He was all fired up, especially with his, he missed a race, didn't he? Where did he? Saudi Arabia he missed, and then he came back. What was his problem again? So, appendicitis, wasn't it? Something like that. And he came back for Australia. Boom, won the race. He was great. He had a string of good, solid scores after that. So he's a solid 7. But I think Leclerc has always shown that he's got the edge on Sainz. Very strong performance from Leclerc. A sort of a championship winning performance from Leclerc, really. He sort of drove like a champion all year, despite finishing 3rd. Very strong, I thought, Leclerc. His strongest season yet, I think. But maybe I should have given him more than an 8, but no, I'll stick with an 8. I've only actually got a couple of 9s, and you can probably guess who they are. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we got 24 in total. But 2 of them, I can't really score Doohan, can I? How can I score Doohan? So I'm not going to score Doohan. So I'm going to put, it doesn't match up because Doohan was actually up here, wasn't he? But Doohan is a not applicable. I'll put him at the end. Doohan is a not applicable. So let's just put a couple more down here, shall we? So let's go with Bottas and Zhou. Now, it's so difficult to score these, and I did this a little bit last year. I'm just going to give them 5 and 5. It's so difficult to. I was trying to get into focus as I hit the camera. It's so difficult to score them higher or lower than that. The Sauber has been woeful. Have they been lackluster in their driving as well? Often drivers lose their performance because they struggle to care, basically, because they know they're constantly fighting for 14th place all the time, and they just lose their mojo. Now, has that happened here? Is the poor performance of the Sauber partially down to Bottas and Zhou? When the Sauber has done well in the last couple of years or so, Bottas has scored good points. Zhou has not, unfortunately. But I'm still giving him the same score because we just don't know. And Zhou did pick up that 8th place towards the end of the season, so that gives them the equal score. But it's very difficult to score those drivers. Okay, so now let's go in with this naughty pen. Keeps drying out. Hamilton. And Russell. Okay. Hamilton, oh dear, I'm going to give him a 6. Russell, I'm going to give an 8. there's no doubt that Hamilton has been outdriven by Russell this year for whatever reason. I don't think it's because Russell is suddenly a better driver than Hamilton. Hamilton has struggled to get comfortable with the car. I thought, and I was totally wrong, but I predicted at the beginning of the season that he was going to have a really good year. I thought Sainz was as well, and Sainz was proving me right in the first part of the season. He still had a strong year, Sainz, but I thought he would have the beating of Leclerc because he would be so fired up because he's leaving Ferrari. To the same extent, I thought Hamilton would be totally relaxed. So slightly different motivation to Sainz. Sainz was motivated to prove himself. Hamilton didn't have that motivation because he wasn't sacked by Mercedes, but I felt that he would be motivated by just being relaxed. He knows he's going to Ferrari 1 or 2 years, probably 2 years. So he can think that's when I'm going to win the championship in the Ferrari. So if I have a bad year this year in 2024 with Mercedes, it doesn't matter because I'm going to win the championship next year in the Ferrari. So I thought that would relax him and actually put him into a good championship frame of mind for this year, but it didn't at all. He has said that he struggled this year, not just with, matching the car, but also not just trying to sort of get the car to work, but also with the fact that he's leaving the team. He's found it difficult to, I suppose, run the championship as he normally would because of the changed dynamics in the fact that he's leaving. So that's made him struggle mentally, it seems, this year. But no excuses, Lewis. I can't really give you any higher than a 6. He won the British Grand Prix, but that was more down to, tactics and getting the pit stops right and things like that, rather than speed. So a bit of a flat Silverstone win, I thought that was. Even though everybody has acted very excited about it, I found it quite a flat result. And of course in Belgium, he might have won the race had Russell's car not been illegal with the fuel, but who knows. But yeah, that was inherited from Russell's disqualification. Russell, on the other hand, has driven fantastically well. Really good. And if he keeps that going next year, and the Mercedes is quite good next year, then he'll certainly be a championship contender, as half the field might be next year. Very good. Russell's best year, basically, I think. So next up we have Ricciardo and Tsunoda and Lawson. Okay, Ricciardo, number 3. He's still got that number 3. Tsunoda, I'm giving a 7. Lawson, a 7. Well, Ricciardo, it feels like I'm beating him when he's down, but he really didn't perform at all. He's obviously run out of steam. All the talk going into this year was, would he be able to impress enough to get into the Red Bull? In the end, he got ousted from the RB. So, God, he went completely in the opposite direction to the way that he was supposed to be heading. And he's just run out of steam. It happens to drivers all the time. It happened to Keke Rosberg in 1986. He was woeful in 86, and yet in the McLaren, and yet in 85 in the Williams, he'd been fantastic. And the previous years to that, I think he just ran out of steam. And I think it's the same here with Ricciardo. He's just run out of juice, basically. Tsunoda, though, been strong all year. Finished 12th in the championship. Had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 point scoring races. 30 point, how many points did he score? Yeah, 30 points. Very good. I think. And Lawson, new to the team, again, very good. He picked up just a couple of point scoring finishes, but he was only in the last 4 races. So he was very good at first. He seemed to constantly be having argy-bargy sessions with Perez, constantly getting together all the time. So he's proving himself to be quite a feisty driver along the lines of sort of Magnussen. But I'd love to see Lawson in a Red Bull next year. And when Verstappen tries to dive up the inside, Lawson doesn't jump out of the way and into the bushes. He actually blocks him. We'll see. Oh, I didn't really comment much actually on Verstappen getting a 9, did I? A fantastic drive. I just suddenly realised I hadn't really mentioned Verstappen. Fantastic drive. But yeah, fantastic drive at the beginning of the year when he was picking up all the wins, and then a fantastic drive through the second half of the season, or even 2/3 of the season, when he was having to fight more for points, and he was still picking up the odd win and podiums and that. And I thought that's very good, but I can't give him a 10 because of his aggressive, ridiculous overtaking moves and defensive moves that he would do on occasions. That stops him getting a 10. Last year he got a 10, I think. I couldn't give him an 11 out of 10 last year, so I had to settle for 10. Right, so now we've got Alonso. I'm going to give him, so it gets another 7, and Stroll 3, I'm afraid. Stroll. Obviously, he's clearly in the Aston Martin next year, isn't he? You know, it's just nepotism, isn't it? Plain and simple, basically. Stroll would not be in that team if he wasn't the son of one of the owners. So, just don't. It's a very difficult position because he doesn't want to leave. Well, occasions he does say he does want to leave Formula One. He a year or so ago was saying he wanted to retire and take up tennis. Now his dad's a billionaire, so he could just say, all right, okay, I'll buy Ivan Lendl for you, and he can train you up to be a tennis player. Boys with toys, isn't it, basically? But I think Lance seems to have decided to stay in Formula One, and I suppose with Adrian Newey coming, he doesn't want to lose that opportunity. But he's virtually been invisible this year. I know the Aston Martin's not been good, but how many points did he score? He scored 24 points. Alonso scored 70. Alonso gets a 7, a little bit difficult to judge as well because of the Aston Martin being really off the pace, but I still think it's another solid performance by Alonso, scoring regularly throughout the year. So yeah, a solid 7. Who have we got next? Magnussen and Hulkenberg. I score Magnussen 5 and Hulkenberg an 8. Can't really argue with Hulkenberg's 8. He's done a good job this year. Some really good solid. In fact, he's scored in 6 of the last 7 races. And he had a couple of 6th place finishes in Austria and Silverstone. Very good. He's been very strong, very reliable, regular, out-qualifying Magnussen a lot, out-driving Magnussen a lot. Magnussen's really been put to the sword there, and Magnussen always had the beating of Ralf Schumacher, but he met his match with Hulkenberg. Magnussen's had a few good races, but not enough to get him higher than 5 in my book. Lastly, Norris, 9. Piastri, 8. Now, obviously I'm going to score Norris higher than Piastri. Some might not like that, but Norris has won 4 races and would have won more had there not been some terrible strategy errors. He would have won in Silverstone, he would have won in Canada, definitely, had he not had bad luck with the safety car. He would have won in Spain. I mean, he might have even won in Qatar. There's numerous races that Norris should have won, but didn't. Piastri has been slightly slower than Norris, as I've said all year. I've been told, lots of people have voiced the opinion that Piastri is still in the early days and is still, getting himself up to speed. But he has taken part in, I think, 47 races. So he should be up to speed already, basically. But for some reason, I say for some reason, there's nothing wrong with the idea of Norris being slightly faster. I have to say, I did think Piastri was going to outpace Norris this year slightly. I thought Piastri would edge it because Piastri seemed to come into Formula One with a bigger fanfare than Norris. Norris was second in the F2 Championship behind Russell in 2018. And I remember hearing about Norris in the lower formula below F2. I didn't hear about Piastri earlier than F3. But Piastri won the F3 title, didn't he? And didn't he the very next year win the F2 Championship before coming into Formula One? I thought he did, but then when Bortoleto won the F2 Championship the other day, it was inferred that that's the first time someone's won the F3 Championship followed by the F2 Championship immediately afterwards in their first years. So maybe Piastri hasn't done that. But he definitely won the F3 title and the F2 title. So I thought he would be closer to Norris after 2 years. But Norris definitely has the edge by 10th. Not by much. Still a very good performance by Piastri. A more than solid 8. A speedy 8, basically, we'll call that. So there you have it, and there it is. Quite a simple video. Just making sure that's still in focus there, which it is, which is good. But I will probably do, or I will do, a 2 videos covering the whole season. I didn't do that last year, but I will do 2023 at some point. But I think I'll definitely do that for 2024 coming up in the downtime between the 2 seasons. And let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to comment, please do so. If you would like to like the video, please do so. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so. If you'd like to pay a tip at the bottom on the thanks button below the video, please do that as well. Thank you. And I will see you on the very next video. Until then, thanks once again and goodbye.